The more I play Halo, the more I've really started to feel like this might be my favorite Halo game of all time. I mean, there's something from every Halo game to like, but messing around in Halo 3's sandbox is just an experience that everyone should really have at some point or another. And along the way, Halo 3 has had some really interesting glitches, to say the least, that are just absolutely awesome. And since last week we took a look at the best Halo Reach glitches, why don't we take a look at Halo 3 today and maybe see what we can pull off here. But before we get into it, have you ever wondered, what if Master Chief needed to build a website for his foot massage and barbecue side business that he runs with the Arbiter when he's not saving humanity? Well, we had that question too, but we definitely think he would choose Squarespace, which actually sponsored this video. From being able to build and manage your own website, to having a ton of different customization tools to really make it your own, Squarespace is your #1 platform to build a great website and run your business. More about that at the end of this video. Okay, so jumping back into it, this first glitch is from the level The Storm, and it's possibly the best glitch of all time. But essentially, if two players go to a dumpster and knock it over, and then go inside of the dumpster and start jumping around, eventually the game will actually lock the players inside a specific section of the dumpster, kind of fusing the player model along with the dumpster as an object. And as you continue to spam the jump button, you can actually take flight in a dumpster. Now, when we tried doing this, we might not have been the best at it, and we only got airborne for a little bit of time, and it does take some trial and error to get the dumpster to actually take off and lock your player models in place. But it is a really interesting thing, and it just kind of says a lot about the physics engine that Bungie had implemented back in the Halo 3 days, and just kind of how unique occurrences like this were possible, whether they were goofy or not. But this one's pretty fun to do when the AI isn't slamming their vehicle into your dumpster when you're just trying to set something fun up. This next glitch is a very common one. Most of you guys probably remember this one, but you can actually hijack an AA Wraith in the campaign. Now, this is actually one I could never seem to pull off no matter how many times I tried, but as it turned out, I wasn't crouching in the right position when I punched the driver off to take the Wraith over. Once I figured that out, it was actually really easy to do, and it's kind of a lot of fun to drive around and get to use this vehicle. It must have been intended, obviously, for use at some point, but got cut later on, so it's kind of fun to kind of get a look behind the scenes as what was maybe intended to be possible at some point in development. Of course, when you exit the vehicle, it will blow up, so if you have a teammate, you better make sure that they're out of the vehicle before you jump out, or they'll die. Simple as that. You know what question I ask myself every night before I go to sleep and every morning when I first wake up? Why aren't there more multiplayer maps in the Halo universe that have the elephant in it? Seriously, when Sandtrap released, the elephant was one of the coolest things added in because they were so much fun to just mess around with. And while, of course, you're not intended to forge this vehicle and move it wherever you want, people found a way relatively quickly. Now, there's a lot of different methods to use. My personal favorite is to just throw a drop pod in there and start lifting it up into the sky. I think it's really funny how when you flip over the elephant, there's that secret message there, which is kind of an Easter egg. And of course, if you don't know what's going on, it can be completely terrifying to see the elephant vehicle just flying through the sky, and it kind of makes it all that much better. Here's another quick one, but also a very useless one, but on Sierra 117, you can actually time a sticky grenade at the Pelican at the end that comes to pick you up and kill the pilot, causing the Pelican to just disappear through the ground. Yeah, that's it. You get stuck there. You can't beat the level when you do it, but you can do it. This next one actually completely broke Halo and actually caused my game to crash several times over. But essentially, if you go into Forge mode and you place a weapon down for another player and you perfectly time up the player picking up the weapon with you grabbing it in Forge mode, and the game will allow the player to hold the weapon from their perspective while also them not holding the weapon from everyone else's perspective as well, and their arms kind of glitch out. Now, I did this one with my wife Sandy, and it was really weird because as I tried to rotate the weapon, it caused her hand to start to do this. And then, of course, the arms on the player model start going in funky directions, but it is really funny nonetheless. However, it gets really game-breaking when you push it a step further and try it with the missile pod. So besides just the missile pod looking hilarious and making it almost look like a Spartan is doing some sort of ballet dance, maybe? I mean, look at this. This is awesome. The second I pressed the rotate button on Forge mode, it caused Sandy's Spartan's arms to start spinning out of control before just completely ripping off and disappearing. Honestly, it was really crazy. And you can continue to move around and run around without arms. However, be careful not to shoot. If you press the shoot button in any circumstance and you don't have arms, your game will just completely freeze up and crash, and you also lose all of your footage in theater mode. But hopefully, if you decide to be careful and you don't shoot, you can kind of run around without arms for a while, and it's kind of funny. This is also one of those glitches that have a lot of impacts in just different types of ways, and a lot of weird things can happen from this. So if you're ever bored and you want to try just breaking Halo a little bit more each day, this might be the one to try out for you. This is a really common one and really popular one, but I wanted to include it here. But it is in fact possible to keep Sergeant Johnson alive by killing him right at the end area before you go and fight 343 Guilty Spark. When you come back out, he'll just be there. We were recording footage for a video that we're going to do in the future a while back, and it happened there because we were just kind of exploiting Sergeant Johnson's infinite Spartan laser, which is another glitch. But it is really funny when you see the cutscene of him dying and then he's just there, just chilling. Real quick, honorable mention though, but we've also had it where we were doing the infinite Spartan laser glitch and we did some extra step along the way, and randomly Sergeant Johnson had no weapon and just jumped down there and started punching the flood. It was pretty hilarious. I don't know if we still have the footage, but if we do, you saw it on your screen, and if you didn't, you just saw some random B-roll footage. This next one's actually something that happens all the time. Like literally anytime you die in an explosion, this glitch happens, but you probably don't notice it unless you go into theater mode. And honestly, this was something I've never really actually paid attention to, but now that I've known that this exists, going into theater mode afterwards to see this glitch is hilarious. But essentially, if you blow yourself up or you die in an explosion, or just in general, you hit a wall at a high velocity, more often than not, somewhere in the process of your character impacting against a wall with enough speed, your player will do some weird Fantastic Four stretching thing. Seriously, I don't even know what to call this, where either a limb or a neck or something will just stretch way beyond what the character model is supposed to look like. We had so much fun just going and killing ourselves in various ways, like with trip mines or fusion coils, or trip mines and fusion coils, or a rocket launcher. And just getting to look at the results are always really funny. Now, it happens so brief when you're just doing it in regular multiplayer. However, going into the theater mode is where you can really appreciate just this amazing ragdoll mechanic. I'm not sure what to call this. I just like it. The next couple are just really basic ones that I've always been doing since I played Halo 3 back in the day, but just doing little things like clipping through fences with a mongoose on Rat's Nest and getting stuck back there because there's nothing you can do when you're stuck there, are really fun to do. But also things like using the machine gun turret to clip through walls where you're not supposed to go. You can do this in so many levels, and you can spend a whole day just going into Forge and breaking many different levels in different ways. But I really used to do it a lot on Foundry, or even this window in Rat's Nest where you can just get stuck out there, and there's not much more to it. Another really common one that was so integral back in the day was being able to overload maps, because while typically a lot of maps have some sort of creative kill barrier where the Guardians will kill you, you can actually get around this by throwing a bunch of trip mines down, with them just constantly respawning by adjusting the runtime rates on each item. We did this on Snowbound, which was one I'd never actually tested it on just because Snowbound doesn't have the most interesting out of the map area. However, because I tested it on Snowbound, I discovered that if you go out of bounds, the snow actually goes up past your ankles. This was awesome! Or at least I was really excited. I don't know if anyone else agrees with me on how awesome having the snow mechanics work that way, where you can kind of stand in the snow, not on the snow for once. I just really appreciated it. I'm still discovering new things about Halo 3 13 years after the game came out. And while those are some of my favorite glitches, there's a few more glitches that are also just really cool, even though I might not be the best at pulling them off. Like some of the team over at Halo Creation took on our Kikowani Station challenge in ODST, which is a Halo 3 engine game still, and they just did an awesome launch with plasma batteries and a gravity hammer all the way across the gap that we were struggling with so much, and they survived. They didn't even have to use the 1-second Banshee trick that we had to use. So for all those people who were raging at us us for using that trick that was in our rules. There you go. Our community solved the problem itself, and I appreciate them for doing it because it was really cool. Yeah, I'm not sure if you guys want to count that as a glitch or just kind of an example of how the physics engine worked in Halo 3 and how you're able to do things like launches, but I still just really like seeing things like this happen. And then of course the good old time travel glitch, which works in a couple different levels in Halo 3, but essentially if you push further by breaking out of the map in one way or the other than where you are supposed to go, you can usually skip ahead in one way and then reload the rest of the level, which essentially is like some sort of time travel situation. We recently actually pulled that off on the Covenant, which led to us making a huge discovery that could possibly beat that level without using a Hornet. And we did a whole video on that. If you haven't seen it, make sure you guys do go check it out. Plus, some of those texture smears are just kind of hilarious to look at. I mean, they hurt your eyes. There's also other instances, of course, where this texture smear effect happens. You can easily trigger it if you just want to be able to see it for yourself in a quick and easy way on the level Halo, where if you go through the area after fighting 343 Guilty Spark and you walk far enough to almost the Warthog run where it triggers the next loading sequence and then just walk back, you can actually look at the door you came through from the original area of the level, and there's no texture on the back of the door, giving you that weird smear effect in just a really open place that you would almost think would have had some sort of loading sequence or something planned to be put there, some sort of texture there, but they somehow missed it. And I think it's cool that you can access this smearing effect. Also, when we were recording this video, when we were getting footage on Sandbox for the overloading the map part, I was trying to get in a Warthog, and all of a sudden, though some of the stuff had despawned when we were overloading it, it respawned at the very moment I was trying to drive the Warthog, and it shoved my Warthog into the earth, and the earth ate my Spartan, and I died in the process, and also had that weird texture smearing thing happen. It was a really uncomfortable situation. I mean, I didn't have any indicator to think that those blocks that randomly had disappeared a few minutes earlier would just happen to reappear the second I drove right there, but that's just the luck I get whenever I play Halo. And once again, thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Whenever we have brands like Squarespace that want to help us out, it really helps support this channel a lot. Squarespace is great because besides just building a clean and professional looking website, they also have a lot of tools to help you in whatever aspect you're trying to specialize in. We really love their analytics feature that gives insight as to who's visiting the website and to what type of traffic you're getting and when. And the fact that you can even schedule your posts ahead of time makes managing a website that you have to put constant updates on much easier, because you can just write out several posts ahead of time and get it all done at once, and then Squarespace will do the rest of the work for you by making your posts go public at the right time. And even better, Squarespace can even serve as a platform to purchase domain names directly. When Luke and I started Rocket Sloth, that was one of the first things we worried about and made sure we established, was that we purchased our domain name rocketsloth.net. It's definitely one of the big steps in making yourself an established entity, and the fact that Squarespace has this platform already available where you can build your site, get your domain name, and a ton of other features is really awesome. Go to squarespace.com/rocketsloth and you can save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. And hey, if you could do just one quick thing, can you guys make sure you guys are in fact subscribed with notifications on down below? If you've been watching us for a while, whether we're popping up in your recommended or just you've been a fan for a while, please double check you do have your notifications on, because we're really trying to up the amount of videos we're putting up and keep a consistent flow of interesting videos for you guys to watch. So of course, we'd really appreciate it.